Hello, my name is Michael Anthony Quiñones Vasquez, and this is my Pecha Kucha presentation. In this presentation, I will be describing the different types of Japanese swords, as well as the medieval sword and some legends behind them. In traditional times, in Japan, bladesmiths were able to create wonderful works of art we all know by the name of katanas. But what we do not know is that the katana is just one name for 9 different swords. The shakuto, or the straight sword, a straight single-edged sword that was produced prior to the 10th century and without differential hardening or folding. Its basic style is likely derived from the similar sword of ancient China. Shakuto were used on foot for stabbing or slashing. The tsurugi ken, a straight two-edged sword that was produced prior to the 10th century and may be without differential hardening or folding. A tsurugi is a Japanese sword akin to the Jian Chinese sword. The word is used to west to refer to a specific Japanese straight double-edged sword. The tachi, or the big sword, that is generally longer and more curved than the later katana, with a curvature certain from the middle or towards the tongue, and often including the tongue. Tachi were worn suspended with the edge downward. The kodachi, or the small big sword, a shorter version of the tachi but with similar mount and intended use mostly found in the 13th century or earlier. A kodachi is one of the traditionally made Japanese sword used by a samurai class of feudal Japan. The odachi, or the big sword, or nadachi, the big field sword, is a very large tachi, some in excess of 100 centimeters, and usually a blade of the late 14th century. The Chinese equivalent and cousin for this type of sword is the miao dao. The ushigatana, a development from the tachi in the 15th century, was the edge upward in the obi. The ushigatana is a type of Japanese sword worn by the samurai class of feudal Japan. The katate ushi, the one-handed, a short type of ushigatana developed in the 16th century with short tongue intended for one-handed use, one of the forerunners to the wakizashi. The katana, a general term for the traditional sword with a curved blade longer than 60 centimeters. There is no upper length limit but generally shorter than 80 centimeters. The wakizashi, or companion sword, a general term for a sword between 1 and 2 shaku long, meaning 30 centimeters or 60 centimeters in motor measures. Predominantly after the 16th century, generally it is the short blade that accompanies the katana. The medieval broadsword, the arming sword or the knightly sword is used in modern terminology, was the most widespread type of sword in the European High Middle Ages. It was a straight sword, double-edged weapon with a single-handed crucifix form held and blade length for about 70 to 80 centimeters. Now, we all know about the different types of sword from Japan to the medieval swords. Now, let's see a bit about some of their history and when some of them became legend. In this part of the presentation, I will be talking from the sword and stone to the cursed Muramasa. The sword and stone, while the Arthurian legend is mostly a product of folklore and myth, there is evidence that the sword in the stone tale might be very real. In the chapel in Montesupi, or Sipi, my apologies, Italy lies an ancient sword embedded in stone. The Kusanagi. The Kusanagi, according to legend, the sword in the snake Kusanagi was found in the body of an 8-headed serpent killed by the god of storm and seas. It's part of the imperial regalia of Japan, icons of the ancient imperial family descended from the sun goddess, Saint Peter's sword. There are several legends about the sword used by Saint Peter when he cut off the ear of the servant of the high priest in the garden of Gethsemane. English lore has it brought to England by Joseph of Arimathea. The Durandal. For hundreds of years, a mysterious sword had been embedded in the cliff above Notre Dame Chapel in Rocadamor, France. The monk says that it's Duramal sword of the paladin Roland. According to legend, Roland poured this holy blade into the side of the cliff to keep it from the enemies. The seven branch sword. In 1945, a mysterious sword was found in Japan's Izanokami's shrine. The sword was exceedingly unusual to make, with six prototasmal branches out of from its sides. The tip is considered the seventh. The sword was in poor condition. The Honyo Masamune. In contrast to the Muramasa swords, are the blades of legendary priest swordsmith Masamune. Legend has it that Masamune and Muramasa held a competition to decide superiority by placing their blades in the stream. While Muramasa cut everything it touched, Masamune refused to cut anything undeserving, even the air. The cursed Muramasa. Muramasa was an ancient Japanese swordsmith who, according to legend, prayed that his swords would be great destroyers. Because of this exceptional quality of his blades, the gods granted his request and imbued them with a bloodthirsty spirit that, if not sated with battle, would drive the wielder to murder or suicide. Thank you for having time with me, and well, I hope you like it. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.